And then came the crackdown, sweeping through Rohingya Muslim villages, leaving them in ashes. Reports of killings, torture and rape, sending an estimated 655,000 Rohingya fleeing into Bangladesh since August. The UN's top human rights official says that one day this could be ruled genocide. Myanmar denies committing atrocities against the Rohingya, and the military says the crackdown was a legitimate counterinsurgency operation. I'm Simon Lewis for Reuters. The world had high hopes for Myanmar after democracy icon Aung San Suu Kyi came to power last year. She won the Nobel Peace Prize for her stand against the military generals who ruled Myanmar with an iron fist, suppressing any and all dissent. Now she faces fierce international criticism herself for failing to protect a vulnerable minority. She's condemned human rights abuses in Rakhine State, but has not addressed accusations of ethnic cleansing. Suu Kyi shares power with the military. Army officers still control key ministries, and they're free from civilian oversight. And it was the military that led the response to a new Rohingya insurgency in the western state of Rakhine. Aid agencies have been blocked and independent journalists and observers can't get in. But refugees tell of a bloody purge that drove the Rohingya out. Advocacy groups say freedom of speech has been eroded since Suu Kyi took office. Many journalists have been arrested and there are restrictions on reporting. 2 Reuters reporters have been arrested and accused of violating the Official Secrets Act. Hundreds of thousands of refugees now live under plastic tarps. They sleep on the floor and rely on handouts. Malnutrition and disease are rife in this new tent city. Myanmar says they can return home, and many say they want to return, but only if they're granted their rights and can be sure they are safe. Myanmar asserts they're not citizens. Suu Kyi says she wants to reconstruct Rakhine and have new development there. But observers say that any efforts could be easily derailed by any insurgent attacks in the future, or by more of what the United States and others have called ethnic cleansing of the Rohingya.
This is all that's left of the heart of the southern Philippine city of Marawi after a grueling urban battle. The army eventually defeated pro-Islamic State militants. It lasted 5 months, but it looks like it was 5 years. The military lost a lot, but it learned a lot from this conflict. There were so many new things that the armed forces had never faced, new tactics that they had to employ. They had to adapt their approach to meet the challenge of this enemy. The siege was clearly planned well in advance. The leaders of the rebel alliance had been in Marawi city for quite some time. The military was completely caught off guard. They didn't have the reinforcements. They were overwhelmed by insurgents. People fled, about 250,000 eventually. It was a tricky conflict for journalists to cover because it was unfamiliar territory for the military. There were airstrikes going on, there were helicopter gunships flying around. The militants were a formidable force. This was a war that was conducted largely via snipers on both sides, making it extremely dangerous for us. The war in Marawi is over, but the concern is that this is just a prelude of more to come. The Philippines was warned about this, but really didn't expect it to happen quite so soon. The ease at which these militants and the foreign operatives were able to recruit, train youngsters and teenagers and university students to join this movement in such large numbers must be worrying. If anything good is to have come from this, it's that governments of the region are aware this threat is real. Martial law has been extended in Mindanao for another year by the Philippines. The armed forces are looking to crack down on the remnants of these movements, to go after new leaders who may emerge and make sure this doesn't happen again.
North Korea hits the headlines almost every day, but it can be really hard sometimes to get an idea of what's really going on inside the country. But this year, several events gave us a window into the world of Pyongyang. I'm James Pearson for Reuters in Seoul, where I cover North Korea. It had been a year of surprises for people like me covering North Korea. The sudden murder of Kim Jong-nam, Kim Jong-un's half-brother, in Malaysia, a country with which North Korea had had relatively friendly relations, showed us just to what lengths Kim Jong-un would go to make sure that nobody opposes him back home in Pyongyang. That was really interesting for people like me covering a story where such little information about the inner court of Kim Jong-un is available. On top of that, we had this really high-profile defection right in the JSA. That's the really tense area that stands between North and South Korea, where a young soldier dashed right across the border to freedom in South Korea. What was perhaps interesting about that was that, controversially, his doctor revealed that his stomach had been full of parasites and worms. It showed us that even soldiers in a relatively elite unit like the one that he is said to have come from suffer from chronic malnutrition and access to the right kind of sanitary conditions that their comrades in South Korea might have access to. Even though this year had seen an unprecedented acceleration in Kim Jong-un's nuclear and missile testing, it's clear that things aren't over yet. We may be heading towards an atmospheric nuclear test by North Korea, which is sure to provoke some kind of response from the United States. In that regard, it's clear that things are maybe only just beginning rather than coming to any kind of conclusion.
This year, it became clear how Rodrigo Duterte's drug war has shaken up the Philippines. Police have killed almost 4,000 people in their anti-drug campaign, and thousands more have been killed by unknown assailants. Human rights activists also blame the police for these vigilante-style killings, a claim the police deny. I'm Claire Baldwin, and have been covering the drug war in the Philippines for Reuters. Police have repeatedly told us that they follow the rule of law and only shoot drug suspects in self-defense. But this year, our investigations revealed Philippine police have accepted cash payments for killing drug suspects. They have planted evidence at crime scenes, and they have brought dead drug suspects to hospital in an apparent attempt to destroy crime scenes and cover up executions. As the year went on, police were rushing more and more suspects to hospital. The police said they were trying to save lives, but this jarred with what eyewitnesses, doctors, and forensic experts told us. We also noticed that one police station in Quezon City, Station 6, had killed far more drug suspects than any other. As we dug further in, it turned out that the commander of Station 6 had been hand-picked by Philippine National Police Chief Ronald de la Rosa. That commander brought a squad of men with him from Davao. The commander said he and his men only killed drug suspects when they were armed and fought back. But when I asked one of his men about what was so special about Davao cops and why he was in Manila, he smiled and said, "Special kill skills." Duterte remains popular despite the thousands of drug war killings. But this year, he halted the drug war twice amid reports of alleged atrocities. The first time was when it was discovered that anti-drug officers had kidnapped a South Korean businessman and murdered him at National Police Headquarters, then tried to extort money from his wife. The second time was after witnesses described police dragging a 17-year-old schoolboy to a dark, trash-filled alley in northern Manila, shooting him in the head and leaving his body next to a pigsty. Their accounts appeared to be backed up by security camera footage, and the killing sparked the biggest street protest against the drug war to date. Going into next year, we're waiting to see if there are more police that come out to talk about what they're doing in the drug war. We're also looking to see if there's additional evidence, such as security camera footage, or more complete police records that show what's happening in the Philippines.